Hi, this is Tracy at Drop of Golden Tarot, and today I am doing my VR to my top 10 decks. So these would be any tarot, oracle, or any other type of divination deck that you wouldn't want to do without if you had to pare your practice down to just 10 decks, which I hope never happens. But if I knew I only had time to grab 10 decks, which 10 decks would I grab? And so these are them. Oh, it's upside down. So the first one that I have picked is Children of Litha. I love this deck. It is a rose petal finish. That is not an issue for me. I have used this deck a ton. I feel like it shuffles just fine. I overhand shuffle. I'm just as clumpy with smooth cards as I am with the rose petal finish. I riffle shuffle to start with anyways. This riffle shuffles for me just fine because I've worked with it a lot. And I found that's kind of how it goes for rose petal finish for me. The more I work with them, the easier they are. I love the illustrations. I love the vibrancy. And even though the deck, it's not a pip deck at all. I mean, it looks like they've got pips on here, but there's an illustrated scene in all of them. And it really tells me what the card is about. Like, I can look at that and I can see the energy, and I can understand the meaning of the card without having to look anything up. But if I do have to look something up, her little guidebook is delightful. And the little poems that go with everything and keywords. So, but this deck is just, I adore it. I get really good readings with it, and I love the colors. I was drawn to it because of its looks. And then as we got to know each other, I liked it for more than its looks. So it was one of those decks that just got better and better looking the more I got to know it. So Children of Litha, I would say, maybe I should have put this as number 1. This is my Aquarian tarot. It is a heck of an old deck. This is not my original, but it could be. So the first deck I ever got and read with was the Aquarian, and it was gifted to me back in like 1984. And I used it for years, and it traveled cross country a couple of times with me, and then it got lost. It really didn't get lost, but it did get lost during a marriage. And so when that relationship was over and I needed to find myself again, one of the things that I did was hunt down a very old version of the Aquarian Tarot. And this is the one that was published in the 70s, and it looks well used and well loved. So it looks just like the one that I had. So to me, this is my first deck. When I learned this, it was learning about me, and it was learning about taking control of my own life and not letting things just happen to me. And so this deck, even though you probably won't see it on my YouTube or my Instagram channel a lot, this deck represents to me freedom. And because of what it is and what it represents, it will, I think it will always remain in my top 10. So I'm going to tuck that there. Another top 10 deck. Should I do tarot, all tarot, and then all oracle? Or maybe not. I'll just mix them together. And the order I have is this Making Magic deck. And this is by Priestess Moon. And it is just one of these little teeny things with just cards on them. And why this deck is because I love working with sigils, and I work with sigils a lot. I find that they're an easy way to incorporate magic in my everyday. I don't take these with me when I go, but I will take the sigil and I will put it on my skin somewhere. So like if I'm going to work, it might be on a leg or somewhere that's not going to be seen by others, going to be washed off. If I'm not going to work, I might do it under my band of my watch. I've learned not to do it under the face of the watch because the ink interferes with it. My watch, realizing that it's on my wrist. But I'll put the sigils on me with intention to help me through my day. And sometimes I will shuffle and see what I need. And sometimes I will look through the deck and find the things that I think that I need and use it that way. So this is a deck, though, that's been often used, but I don't have them memorized. And I suppose I could make my own sigils. I have in some things, but these are just an easy way to incorporate sigil magic into my life. So this deck will stay. I love it. The Lazy Crow Tarot. Now this deck is by Nicholas Cragoe. I'm not sure if that's right. I guess I should have said who all the decks were by. Children of Litha is Alexandria Hunt, right? And the Aquarian Tarot. Oh, I forget. This is an old but goodie. I think it says in here. Does it? Does it not? I can't remember. You guys will probably know. Anyways, I'll put it down in the description box below. The Lazy Crow. Let's go back to Lazy Crow so it can get its moment. I know it doesn't look like the Aquarian, but there is something about it that reminds me of the Aquarian Tarot, but updated. Like, it's like my new Aquarian kind of a deck. I have only had this for a little while, but I have done a ton of readings with it. And it just works so well, and the energy is so apparent, and it reads so well, and it feels good and shuffles nicely. It's a nice linen cardstock. But I saw this on somebody else. I saw this on Dustin from Modern Metaphysiques channel. I was immediately drawn to it in a way that I'm not always to decks that I see just a couple of cards or somebody talking about. And I picked it up on Etsy because the creator has an Etsy shop, and I just adore it. It speaks all the speaks to me. So, yeah, from the moment I got it, I'm like, this is going to be like a keeper for the rest of my life. So the Lazy Crow Tarot. So I think that's been 4 decks. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Arboridium. And this is by Phil and Jacqui Lovesey. And this is just it's just a cute little deck. And it has keywords, and they don't mean as much if you haven't read the book, I think is maybe the way I want to say it. I've read the book. The book is delightful. It's so darn cute. And so when I look at these cards, I'm reminded of the stories in the book, and they have multiple books. But then also when you go into the guidebook, it's a really good guidebook. And the guidebook tells you a story. It's kind of, I feel like it's a Oracle of Fables, where it tells you a story that has a moral to it, but it doesn't always point the moral right out. You have to get the moral yourself. And so I love that. It makes you do a little bit of work, and it helps you pull out of it what you need from it. So this is a definite keeper for me. One of my favorite decks that I use quite often for like my pull a card a day kind of thing. This one is the Shamanic Healing Oracle cards. And this is one of the actual few mass markets, I think, that actually made it out of my list. But these cards are just, I love the art style and the artwork in them. But they actually have been really good cards. They're really great cards to journal with. The guidebook is excellent. I think that's always a must with an oracle deck. You need a great guidebook. You can have the best oracle cards in the world, and I still think you need a great guidebook. So I have not been disappointed. I hesitated on this purchase for a while and should have probably done it much sooner. Oh, can you hear my dog? Probably can hear my puppy. He's having puppy dreams. He's barking in his sleep. So, Shamanic Healing. This is by Michelle I'm going to massacre that. Here, I'll show you right there. So, it's published by Schiffer. It did come dinged and dented at that edge. I don't know if you can see that corner there. I thought about returning it, but I bought it from a proper store, not from Amazon. And I didn't want to leave the proper store with that mess. And then somebody talked about you're got a deck to help you with healing. Maybe part of your healing is learning to accept imperfections. And it is. It is. So I have kept it, and that has actually been very helpful for me in that way, even though the corners are dinged. But you can see I'm not all the way healed yet because it still obviously bothers me at least a little bit, right? So the next deck that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do, okay, we're going to do this one. Now, I would take this with me in a fire right now. I don't know if that will always be the case. I don't know this deck well enough to know if this is going to be on my top 10 forever. I kind of hope it will. I am very attracted to the artwork and all of the different meanings, the layers, the history, the culture that I'm learning as I go through this deck and learn this deck and watch Benebell's videos related to the deck and kind of work my deck as I'm watching the videos and go through it with her. But so far, I have really been enjoying this, and its intention that she had for it to be the shield, to be the grandma that gives you honest advice, but not in a mean way. That I want that too. It all is intriguing. So I'm going to put the Spirit Keeper Tarot in my top 10 decks for now. I think that it will stay there, but I guess only time will tell. So, next, I am going to go with the Threads of Fate Oracle. And this is the Shadow Edition. And I don't know how well these cards will show up on the video. There are scenes in the background. Some are easier to see. I don't know if you can see those. There's mountains in the background, and there's the overlay and a keyword, and it's broken up into several areas. The elemental areas of earth, water, fire, let me see if I can remember my air, and ether, so spirit. You see the little moon there? Anyways, this is a great deck for me for journaling, for shadow work, for my thought for the day, for when I need to ponder what's going on in my life and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. This is a good deck for that. Partly because of the deck, but a lot because of the guidebook. Again, great guidebook. Also gives you the meaning of the card, an animal reference, a plant reference, and a stone reference to go with it. So if you're working on those things, you can incorporate other areas of magic into that card to work on the things you need to work on. So this is, I don't do readings with this deck. I actually don't do readings with my oracle decks at all. My oracle decks are more like a single card pull is how I treat them. But this one is the oracle that stays on my desk all the time. I have a special drawer for it. Here, up here, you can't see, up here on my desk space, so that it's always easily accessible. Number 9, and we're going to go back to tarot. And number 9 is Prisma Visions. And this is the newest one. Oh, it shows up so much better on camera than the glossy one did. My daughter took my old copy when I got a new copy with the Kickstarter, with the Cosmovision Kickstarter campaign. So I got a new copy. I took this deck home with me this summer and did quite a few readings with this deck, and I read for other people, like a lot, and it just delivered and delivered and delivered. One, I love the art style. I was an art major the first time around in college before I went back for nursing. I love impressionistic paintings. I love Monet and Degas and anything that is impressionistic. Van Gogh, and it kind of reminds me of all of that. So the artwork intrigued me to begin with, just because I love the style, I love the colors. But it reads really well for me. I mean, it makes sense. 3 of Pentacles. He's building his wall. I mean, look, he's not proficient at it yet, but he's working at it. He's going to get faster as he goes. Look at the 2 of Wands and the possibilities just coming out of there and gazing off and knowing that there's choices that have to be made. Look at that Queen of Swords. So this bird has been terrifying her whole tribe, and she is not going to take it anymore. And I just love that. That is such Queen of Swords energies for me. Like I'm not going to take your crap. You're going to knock it off right now, or I'm going to make you knock it off. And I love it. It just is so Queen of Swords. So, look at that Knight of Wands. He's got so much energy. He's built up so much stuff. He's got to almost pull himself in two with all the things he's trying to do and directions he's trying to go and all that. And then I did get all the extra cards too with that Kickstarter. Gorgeous. But this deck is just dreamy and just works so well for readings. When I read for other people, I do not incorporate the extra cards because I don't have their meanings memorized. And when I read for other people, I don't like to look at a book. But I have a couple of decks that are just so intuitive for me that although I don't read for other people very often, there's a few decks that I'm super comfortable reading basically for anybody with, and this is one of them. So, Prisma Visions, by James R. Eades. I think I've been forgetting to say the names and who they're by again. Let's see. Did I say Threads of Fate? I don't even know. This is by a group of people. Blair Porter and Brit June. There you go. I thought there was a third one. Maybe the third one helped with the publishing. I can't remember. Okay, So my number one deck that I would always grab and not be without will be no surprise to anybody who follows me on Instagram or anything like that. It's going to be the Goliath. This, and I just did a reading for myself. And these cards are still stacked because these are the cards that came out for me. This deck just says it all. That is such a disturbing devil card, which is not a bad thing. To me, it looks like a photograph that's been overexposed. And that in itself has meaning when you come to the devil card and the Master of Lies and that idea of overexposure. So, this deck, I think this is when I started working with, and journaled, not just to learn tarot, not just to strengthen my memory of tarot, but to deep dive into what I was feeling. I saw a walkthrough of this deck, and it brought up a ton of emotion for me. And before this deck, I never liked an animal deck. They just were not for me. And I was so surprised when I saw a walkthrough this, and it resonated with me so much that I immediately purchased it and then finished watching the walkthrough. And in fact, I so much would never be without this deck, that I actually do have a backup copy of this deck. I think it's only one of 2 decks that I purposely have a backup copy for. I do have backup copies of a couple, 2 other decks, because I have like a full size, and it was got a mini in a box and a subscription box, and another one I got a full size deck and then was given another of the same deck but in a different finish. The one I got was glossy, and I was given it in a matte. So I do still have both of those decks. Keep on meaning to rehome the glossy version. I just haven't yet. But anyways, I digress. So this just has been a deck that has helped me to understand thoughts and patterns and consequences. It's a deck that if I have a serious question, something that I'm afraid I may not like the answer to it, I tend to go to this deck. Not because it's a hug deck. It's not a hug deck. It's not mean, but I wouldn't consider it a hug deck. But when I really need the answer, when I'm really ready to face the answer, this deck will, it's straightforward. It's, I flip the cards over and I understand immediately what I'm being told. It has helped me examine motives and conditioning. It has helped me overcome conditioning. It's helped me meet some of my shadow. And some of the shadow that I've met has not been bad. It's just been repressed things that I have been told are not within society's wants of a female. And so some things get repressed because of that. But, and some of those things have been less than desirable aspects of my life that I've had to learn, or maybe you should say, am still learning how to embrace, incorporate, and turn negatives into positives. Maybe that's a good way to say it. So Goliath would be, it is, I saved it for last because it is my number 1 deck. Oh, these are the extra yes, no cards. I always have them flipped up on the bottom so they don't get mixed into the deck when I do a reading. So yeah, this is my absolute favorite deck. If I could only save one tarot deck, this would be the deck I would save. I feel that strongly about it. And they are chunky cards, and I don't care, and they shuffle just fine for me. It is not the rose petal finish. It's just a matte cardstock. And the more I worked with them, the more they riffle, shuffle, and bridge really well. So I kind of have larger hands, so that's these work. You know, I can grab them just fine. So yeah, those have been my top 10 decks that I couldn't live without. And this has been Ray at Drop of Golden Tarot, and thank you for joining me. And I hope that you have a safe, healthy, and happy week ahead of you. Bye-bye.